Good evening, viewers. My name is Charley Mabinty Jonnah, and I'm a student of LLB 4 at the Law Department at the University of Sierra Leone Forever College. And today with me, I have my colleague. Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ayesha Munu. I am also in LLB4 for the College University of Sierra Leone.
Today we'll be discussing the laws on sexual offenses in Sierra Leone, and my colleague will just give a brief definition of what sexual offenses mean. So, Ayesha, can you please give a definition of sexual offenses?
Sure. Generally, when we talk about sexual offenses, we talk about laws that are set by the legislative arm as a recourse for victims of sexual offenses or sexual acts, and this can include rape or assault, etc. When we talk about sexual acts, we're talking about things that are performed in a sexual manner on another person, and the watchword here is consent. So without the person's consent, it is termed as a sexual offense.
So, in talking about consent, we must first of all look at the acts which encompass these crimes, which the law terms as sexual offenses. So, the acts in Sierra Leone, what are them? What are they?
Well, right now, we just had a new amendment on the sexual offenses, right? The Sexual Offences Act of 2019. And if you check that act, it's so clear and so prescribed. It gives first of all, when you start reading right from section 2, it tells us, first of all, what consent means. Because in Sierra Leone, a lot of people argue and they say, oh, well, they gave consent in this form, or they gave consent in that form. So I think it was important for the law to really prescribe, but really show, okay, what does it mean when an individual gives consent, and what does it mean when an individual has not given consent?
Yes, consent is a major issue, and we must bring to the notice of viewers that a child is not capable of giving consent, and yes, the child cannot give consent, and consent cannot be implied, unless, of course, there are actions by the victim who is alleging rape, that there are actions by him or her that the accused person will feel might be giving him or her consent. So now let's see, let's talk about these acts which cannot be just viewed as consent. Like, for example, when you see a person,
when someone is sleeping, for example,
if you do not resist, if you do not resist, that cannot mean consent.
Exactly, when someone is intoxicated. And there's something that you said that's very interesting when you said a child. Now, if you check the Act, Section 4 deals with, okay, what prescribes a child. That it has to do with the age also, because in Sierra Leone, a lot of people, it's very unfortunate that a large part of the population isn't literate, and even those that claim to be literate are legally I don't want to say literate, but they're not they don't really understand the laws. And a lot of people do not realize that when someone is below the age of 18, that person is a child. And so you cannot give the excuse of, oh, she's 17 years old, she's turning 18 next month. No, she's still a child anyway, or he's still a child anyway. And so when someone is below the age of 18, there is no defense that you can give to say this is the consent.
I know that.
Yeah.
But there are in certain occasions where a person who is above the age of 18 can still not give consent. That is what I'm
well, of course. Especially married people, Charlie. I've heard interesting stories when people say, oh, you're married anyway, so there is no way your spouse gets you. Again, consent should be explicit. It's not a defense. Section 5 tells you it's not a defense. Even if you're married to someone, you still need their consent. You still need them to say, I'm ready for this, I'm open to this, let's do this, before you can go ahead. You cannot say, oh, we're married, so that gives me the right to do whatever I want, whenever I want, wherever I want to this person.
Yeah,
And just like you were saying, someone
I know
cannot be
that.
sleeping,
Consent.
intoxication. These are all things that really, people tend to overlook, or sometimes people just do not understand.
So, okay, so that is the issue of consent. And in order for us to move forward, the acts also make provision for other offenses which amounts to sexual offenses. Now, I
Yes,
want us to look at those offenses. One of those offenses is rape. Now, what is
yes.
rape? Can you tell viewers what rape is?
Um, I'm going to try to be as general as possible. But then again, I think I'll quote, because if you look at section 6, section 6 of the Act, sorry, a person who intentionally commits an act of sexual penetration on another person without the consent of that other person commits the offense of rape and is liable on conviction to a term of imprisonment not less than 15 years of life imprisonment. So if I'm going to try to be plain, sexual penetration. And the reason why I want to stress on this a little bit is because when we talk about sexual penetration, immediately someone might want to think of one particular gender. And the law doesn't say sexual penetration to a girl or sexual penetration to a woman.
Penetration on a boy.
Sexual
Yes.
penetration means it could be either a man or
Or
a
woman.
woman. And I try to say this because a lot of people overlook the fact that guys can get raped too, boys can get raped too. And a lot of times these are victims that can never get access to justice because people will say, excuse me, you're a boy. How did someone rape you? You're a boy, you know?
But they forget the fact that rape does not only have to do with genitals of a female. I mean, rape can actually be done
Exactly.
through the anus, and boys too can be raped via that passage. I mean,
Exactly.
so that
Exactly.
is why boys too can be raped, and there are numerous cases of boys being raped, but those cases have not been reported because who would believe a boy to have been raped?
Exactly.
So, yes. So moving on from that, let's consider the other offenses that are part of the laws of Sierra Leone, which amounts to sexual offenses. Can we move on to this law, voyeurism? That is not being talked about. I mean, there's this recent case
Yes.
about a girl, yes, who was viewed, who was recorded, and that
Yes. Yes.
recording was disseminated. You
Yeah.
must have heard about that. So why don't we talk about a little about voyeurism and how that can affect a person?
I'm very sorry about my background. Yes, sexual. I'm very sorry. My neighbors are very busy this afternoon, but notwithstanding, when that video got leaked out, I think that's something that showed also that as a people, especially as young people in Sierra Leone, we are really overlooking how wide the ambit of sexual offenses can really go. So it doesn't just have to be with someone raping another person, but for you, without the person's explicit permission, to videotape something as private, as personal as that, and then taking it upon yourself to launch it out to the internet. Again, a lot of people did not even realize that that was even an offense. Like, you cannot do that. That's a crime.
Yes, yes. And I think they need to be
Yeah.
educated in that. The laws in Sierra Leone are very strong. What is lacking is the education. And that will now take me to this new amendment act. I'd like for us to discuss some of these new laws one of these new law that has been added to the Sexual Offences Act in general. Now let's take section 6, the amendment of section 6, which added
Yeah.
life imprisonment for rape.
Yeah.
How do you view that? Do you think life imprisonment for rape is necessary in this society?
Charlie, that's very interesting, and that is something I've been thinking about ever since this new law was enacted. I think it's a very delicate topic. It's something very sensitive to talk about, but I think it is in place as long as everything is cleared up. And the reason why I'm choosing those words is because I want to be as general as possible. So you cannot just say, oh, this person raped me, and boom, the next thing you know, that individual is in jail. Because life imprisonment is talking about someone's, entire life and their entire future. And that is a disadvantage to society because with every other person that is in jail, then society is losing another brain, another contribution to development. So when you talk about the law, when someone makes a rape accusation, there are so many things that must be proven. So in my opinion, as long as these things are proven through the latter, so first of all, you have to go get that evidence from the Rainbow Center. Yes, we have to ensure that yes, that's the individual sperm. We have to ensure that yes, this person was ruptured. We have to ensure there was a intention and blah 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 blah. When all of those things are proven, of course, beyond all reasonable doubt, then I think it's in place because rape is something that's not just a physical abuse, Charlie. Keep in mind, it has to do with someone's psychology, and it can destroy a person's emotions forever, So I think for an offense as heavy as that, I think it's in place. Again, betting on the fact that everything is proven beyond all reasonable doubt, because I don't know what you think.
I subscribe my view to that because there are other societies and other countries with much worse laws than that. Consider India, for example. India has life imprisonment to death penalty, but you don't see rape decreasing as it is in other countries, like it's the capital of rape. But notwithstanding, when we talk about the laws, we look at society. In this society, life imprisonment, don't you think, considering the medical evidence that are not readily available, look at how medical evidence, the medical
and we even look at where the people are kept, the prison. Yeah.
Yes. So do you think it's fair? Life imprisonment is fair in this society, or don't you think it will deter people from reporting?
Government should have really thought of, again, if you recall what I said when every measure, when every provision is met, when every provision,
that's the problem. How can every provision is met when the country is like this? It cannot be compared to the United States, which has United States has life imprisonment for rape, but they have good and expert medical evidences to support the claims and the accused to back evidence. But we don't have such facilities. So life imprisonment, don't you think it would be unfair?
Any facility, because sometimes, and here's the interesting thing about rape. So sometimes people get away with the act when they think about the fact that, let's say, someone that is not a virgin is being raped. You understand?
Yeah,
they go to
someone who is not a virgin being raped and they report such a case.
yeah, Sunday.
Ayesha, are you there? Ayesha? Are you
Hello?
here? Yes. You were saying
Yes,
something
I'm here. Sorry, I
about a
think
virgin.
my
Someone
internet.
is not a virgin being raped.
Yes. So when someone is not a virgin that has been raped, where can you make the accusation that okay, the hymen got ruptured? The person doesn't have a hymen anymore because that person is not a virgin. So these are some of the defenses that people use to get away with the act. Because in Sierra Leone, we cannot do DNA tracing. We cannot say, okay, let's go check the victim's clothes. Let's go check the accused clothes. Let's see if we can find some DNA. We
Yes,
don't
and
have that. That's an important provision.
sometimes it is even difficult to prove an attempt of rape or rape in itself on an adult. The only time you see
Exactly.
people focusing on rape is when it's being done to a child, even or an
Exactly.
extremely old person. But a young lady cannot just come up and
Exactly.
say they've been raped and people believe them. The bad person might even go out
Exactly.
and say we were dating, and others would believe that person. And dating, being in a
Exactly.
relationship, is not an excuse to rape someone or to engage in a sexual activity with a person
Yes.
without
Yes.
their consent. And that is the problem. I think that is one of the reasons why many rape cases are not being reported. Because if somebody has been raped and they have the fear that if they come forward, nobody will believe them because they probably were in a relationship with somebody else.
Especially men. Especially
Man,
men.
man,
Yeah, but then
they're in a
I'm just
relationship with
trying
someone else. Nobody will
to
believe
back up
them.
my stance. So you see, Charlie, because of things like that, I think the reason why the legislative arm wanted or did in fact include life imprisonment as a punishment was just so they can deter people. So if you think of the fact that the prison, the Pademba Road Correctional Center, is
Hello, are you there?
needs so much. That is a whole topic. I think they're trying
Are
to
you there?
deter the act from people. I'm here. I can hear you.
Okay.
I think they're trying to deter the act so badly that just thinking about the fact that you will spend the rest of your life at the Pademba Road Correctional Center if you engage in such an act, I think that in itself is a mechanism to just get people to stop this barbaric act and just to reduce the numbers. Because every day we see an increase in the number of people because not just women, of men and women that get raped. Charlie, did you get
Yes,
me?
that is terrible. I get you. Considering this latest case, it's not too late. I mean, it's recent about of this 7 months old baby who was raped. That is terrible. Now,
I know.
what I'm saying is the flip side of that, the fact that people are considering that if this goes public, if this goes to court, then this person might go for life. Maybe it would be best if I don't report this case at all. Don't you think that is a flip side of this law? That is actually a disadvantage. The fact that there is a life imprisonment, and if this thing goes public, this person might go for life. I'll be jeopardizing
Yeah,
the ruin this
yeah, and
person's
you're
life
very
forever.
correct, Charlie, because we've seen cases where people have made rape claims that are in fact false and that are in fact fake. But then again, I think there's no personally. In all my 4 years in the law course, I've really thought about this, and I think I've reached a conclusion that at the end of the day, the law isn't 100. It can never be completely fair. It can never be completely unfair. And what can we do? I mean, the law is the law. We don't really have much of a choice there. I think you raised up a very good point, but then again, I mean, it is the law. So
Yes, it is a law, but that I think that law has even been backed up because when people change their minds from going to court with such a case, they tend to go for backed up conclusions. I mean, for out of court settlements, and people who engage in such acts have now been there's now a provision to stop that act, they either go in for 1 year,
Of course, yeah.
10 million, a fine of 10 million. So what do you think about that provision in this new amendment?
Well, that's something I don't really agree with, because the problem is, Charlie, for me personally, I've worked with a lot of young women who have suffered from several forms of abuse, rape included. And the problem is, a lot of these cases are community based. So it's not a community people taking advantage of boys and girls in the community and raping them. So when someone goes away, when someone is proven beyond all reasonable doubt guilty of such a barbaric offense, and then that person pays a fine of 10 million meals, goes to the correctional center for 1 year, he or she comes back to the community. Think of the psychological effect that it has on the victim.
Because the person now we are talking about are the ones who would want to go for out of court settlement. Let's say you call a priest or your imam in the area or a local person who is respected, and that person wants to bring an out of court settlement to talk to you. Let's say, for example, a woman's daughter has been raped, and that person wants to go to court, and then the accused person finds people in the area whom they know you respect, and bring them to the doorstep. Yes. To beg for out of court settlement, and those are the people that the law is targeting. People who want to go in for such settlement. People who like these imams, these pastors, these stakeholders in the society.
Of course, because
so
when it comes
the fact that they are thinking about doing it, before you even think about it, now you know if you do, there is a law which is going to fight you. So I think it's a very good provision.
Definitely.
The reporting
there
of
shouldn't
cases
be any
of sexual
room
offenses.
for out of court settlement when it comes to rape, when it comes to sexual offenses in general. We've had a long history of people compromising cases, and we have to say no to compromising sexual offenses cases. So I think. And one thing I really admire, or I personally like about the amendment, is the fact that, for me, I like when the law cannot just deal with the issues in the present, but the law has provisions of how the trends might change in the future. And there's something in there to ensure that, okay, should another trend come up, the law is futuristic enough to handle that. And I think this is like a good example of that, because it's one thing to make to put down laws about sexual in general. There's a provision for that. There's something that can be done to handle that. So I really admire the act. I really like the act for that. Charlie, if we can go a little further from rape, because I think rape is a topic that I think it's a topic for a day. You know,
we can go on and on. It's been talking about rape.
On and on about
on. Yes.
Let's talk about another offense. Sexual touching of a child.
Oh, that is before we go to the child. Now that is so rampant among people, and they do not know actually that is an offense, a sexual offense.
Exactly.
I mean, you can sometimes you just meet a friend who is a boy probably, and you touch them anyhow, sexually. I mean, that is an offense, but they're not aware, and sometimes it's even gratifying to the person that is being touched. But I think that people should be educated that is an offense, and you have a right to protect your person from that.
Exactly.
Yes.
And people cannot. I mean, they don't even have the space to talk about it, to say so and so person touched me in this way. And touching is just one thing. If we go back to the act, besides just touching a person, we've seen cases where people use objects.
Yes, people
use objects
like
to penetrate several parts of the other person.
Yes,
without
they do.
Their explicit consent.
And again, sometimes when you even object to being touched like that, whether with an object or by a person's body part, they say, like in a local parlance, "Ah, you make so bad." Can you imagine?
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And
You
this
make like
is
say nobody
worse.
touch you,
Oh,
so things like this is it's very bad.
and it's worse for young people in relationships, especially
Yeah.
women, because they don't think or they don't know that they can tell their boyfriends, "Excuse me, don't touch me like that," or
I
"Excuse
think
me, I'm not a fan of you using this object to penetrate me." Things like that. And
the
even married
problem
people,
is
they don't
the
think
problem.
they
Yes,
have
yes.
the space to talk about it.
I think the problem there lies in the relationships, but
That's the
they must be
thing.
educated that that is an offense. And when somebody does that, you have the right to stand up to them that no, you can't touch me like that. It's an offense. Otherwise,
Of course.
I'll take you to court. But then
So
who
if
would
you're
believe
if you're if
you
you're
being
at
touched like
home,
that? You
if
plan
you're
to
at
do one.
home
That's
and
things like that.
if you're home right now and you're listening or you're watching to Charley and I, just know that nobody, male or female, can A, use objects to penetrate you without your explicit consent.
Consent, yes.
B, they cannot touch you sexually. That's harassment. No one can sexually harass you. You should know that you have the right to talk about it. You have the right to take legal action against the person because there are provisions in the law for
Yes,
a legal
regardless,
recourse. So
regardless, you
yeah,
can do so regardless of whether it's a usual thing you guys, you two do to yourselves. The day you do not consent to it, it has to stand. It's a no.
yeah.
If it's a
Again,
no for today,
consent
it
is
is a no.
so important, and
Important.
consent means me sober, me well, of sound body and mind. So I'm not drunk. I'm not under any form of duress because then again, Charlie, you have to understand some people give consent, but are they really giving consent? Because
Mm-hmm.
some of them are giving consent really tight. Some people
Yes,
give consent because they're intoxicated. So it
intoxicated.
doesn't matter if we're dating, doesn't matter if we're married. Consent means I'm sober. I am not intoxicated. I am not under any form of
Form
duress.
of
I am not
duress.
stressed. I am not forced. I am of sound mind and body, and I'm saying, yes, let's do this. I want to participate. But when I say no, I don't feel
Either
like
outside any
participating.
of those, outside any of
Yeah,
those, the law cannot view any form of sexual touching or harassment as you giving consent. Now let's talk about this age. I'm not talking about age
yeah.
of consent. I'm talking about age of perpetration of the offense. Now this new amendment,
Very
um,
interesting. About a child, then the age of 18 comes in. I think anybody over the age of 18 can be considered a youth. I think that's first of all where we try to draw the line. Charlie, can you get me?
yes, I can, because the age of a youth is not fixed. People think being a youth ranges from the age of teenagehood to 35 years. So, but the law then says, um, if you are below the age of 18, then you are a child. But if you
Yeah.
are above the age of 18, then you are an
You're not
adult.
a child.
Then what
Exactly.
makes you a young person? And from where does the law start imposing this 15 years to life imprisonment? From which age is it? It's not clear. It's not in the act. So, like, I want you to educate viewers on the differences between the three. That is,
Or
if
maybe
you
you
can
can
throw
start.
light on
You
it.
can start
If you
educating
can throw
viewers.
light on it.
Go ahead and start educating viewers, Charlie. Let's learn from you because it's a very interesting part that you're.
It is because
It's an
I
interesting.
myself find it.
Yeah.
I myself
It's a
find
bit
it
confusing,
confusing.
really.
It's confusing. Whom does law
Yeah.
refer to as a young person? Because a young person can even be 19, but a person of 19 years old is an adult and is liable to be sentenced from 15 years to life imprisonment. You understand what I'm saying?
I think I get your point, but I think I'll speak. I think it's the language. I remember this one time Wooey in class was telling Dr. Bina, he said, Doctor, it's not just the law, It's the language. It's language that is the problem. It makes everything so confusing. I think where I would draw the line in trying to differentiate will be if you're definitely 0 to below 18, a child. I do not I do not approve people calling children young people. I think that's something we can use late, but when we're trying to speak legal terms, when we're trying to be legal, let's try to know what we're talking about. If someone is below the age of 18, that person is a child. Let's call him or her legally a child. If you're above the age of 18, then I think you qualify to be a youth. And I think, and I may be wrong about this, it's definitely open to further research. But I think that's where the young person cap fits better. But that's just an opinion.
I think I'll subscribe my view to that. But again,
Yeah.
a person below the age of 18 can still be held criminally liable, but a child cannot be held criminally liable. In other words, child does not cover till 18. Although it covers till 18 when it comes to criminal responsibility. So, because look at Section 70 of
Yeah.
Child Rights Act 2007, which says criminal age of responsibility is 14 years. So if they are talking about, so what if a child of 14 years commits rape? Will that child be sent to an approved school, or would that child go to jail?
Yeah. Um. Then again, I think maybe it all depends on the nature of how things go down, on the nature of the crime
Offense,
itself.
yeah.
Yeah, because we've seen case laws where children, even though they're considered those in K-PAC below the age of 14, but there are certain offenses or certain crimes that they commit. They're charged as adults. They're judged as adults. I think all of that will have to fit into the nature of the crime itself. Because Charlie, when someone is going through a proceeding for an offense, there's so many things that come into play. What the law says, what the act says is one part of it. You understand? We have to think about so many other things that come into play. And I think you have to start. So we have to think, of course, putting the age, okay, this person is so and so years old, but this is what they've done. You understand? So I think that is also subject to the nature of the offense itself. And of course, the person representing the person. So they have a very good defense counsel. Stand a very
might
good
be able
chance.
to get you acquitted of that act.
Yeah. And then again, we are trying to interpret the act, but then who can really, you and I can only do so much now.
So you were about to take us. Go on.
Excuse me.
Go on.
Yeah,
you and
I are trying to understand the act, trying to interpret the act to the best of our abilities. But then again, when we're talking about using the act in an actual proceeding,
yes, it may be different because the interpretation is left for the judges in most occasions.
Exactly. The judge may choose to interpret it in a different manner. Charlie, there are so many things that come into play. Your lawyer might interpret it in a different manner. He or she may find legal and logical backing up. It all depends on how they present it.
Yes. Okay, you were about to take us to this same touching offense, the offense of touching a child. Now we've moved from you being an adult who is being touched or in a relationship. Now let's talk about a child being touched. So what do you think that offense is about?
I think, Charlie, a lot of people do not pay attention to this. They wait until it graduates. And this is how a lot of those cases, these rape cases start. It always starts with touching, and then
Because
they graduate to actually going ahead to rape the individual. And the
yes,
problem with children being touched is, first of all, 90% of the time they're being touched by adults. So
yes,
they cannot
you
really
have to.
express it. They can't really talk about it. They can't say, oh, so and so person touched me, because do they even know? Like, are they aware? They know it makes them feel uncomfortable, but then do they really know that this is wrong? Because this is Sierra Leone, and people, it's in Sierra Leone they'll see a 60-year-old man referring to a 5-year-old girl, Nuef.
I was just about to say the same thing. Many of
Nami
these local
Uman,
communities, you
Nami
see
Wef.
old men or
Exactly.
older guys referring
Exactly.
to little kids as their wives,
Yeah.
and they'll be leaving
Yeah.
money to the mothers or to the parents for them, and that is what
Exactly.
starts the relations. You see, these men starting coming to these little girls. I mean, touch them anyhow, and
Mhm. Mhm.
I didn't want to
And so
say this, but
the
I
girl,
was a
you
child.
have to think about the 10-year-old girl. Does she even know that old
What
man
is
touching
being
her in
done
that way,
to
that's wrong?
yes.
Exactly.
And
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 when
they
they
laugh
try to
about it,
talk
not
about,
knowing it's a very
thank you.
serious affair. When I was a child, something similar to this happened to me. I was with my grandparents in this local community. There's
Okay.
this man who normally comes to the house
Yeah.
and calls me his wife.
Mm.
Yes.
That's how it starts.
So
That's how it starts. Charlie me with.
back then,
Yeah.
every time I saw him, I would run away and hide. Yes, I used to do that for so many times, and there are times when he would come, he would start throwing kisses at me. Can you imagine an old dude throwing
Imagine.
kisses at a young girl? But now
Yeah.
people encourage it and say think it's fun, and the man will start maybe touching the kid anyhow. The kid may not understand what is even happening to them until it escalates to a point that it cannot be solved anymore, and
And
it is
Charlie,
very
this
bad.
brings something that I like to talk about. I think there is one thing left that the law or maybe further amendments should include, and that's negligence by parents.
Yes,
Because in Sierra Leone, so many parents are negligent. They do
very
not
much.
have the time and they do not have the space to talk to their little girls and their little boys, to question them, to listen to them, because sometimes the children want to talk about it. They
That's
want
a
to say,
very,
this person
very,
touched me, this man used this object and he did this to me. But then
that's
the
a
mothers
very,
and the
very good
fathers are
point,
so very
Ayesha.
busy doing what I don't know in the name of, oh, I have to take care of this. Hey, I
That
have
is
this very
exactly,
heated
you're right.
conversation with this woman. She was telling me, Aisha, what do you want me to do? I have to take care of her schooling. I have to take care of the phone bills, the water bills. And I said, you're going around, you're working, you're doing a very good job. You're very hardworking. You're working because you want to provide all of these things for your girl. And she said, yes. And I said,
It's not,
what
it's
will
your
it benefit
responsibility.
you if you have
It's your
done all of these things
responsibility.
and you
So,
lose this girl at the end of the day? You say, I have to work, I have to do this, I have to do that because I want to take care of the child. So what if the child dies from rape at the end of the day? What does your sacrifice mean then? So because you have to find all of these things, you cannot spare time in your day to sit down with your daughter and say, how are you? Who is this person? Who is that? Don't let that boy touch you. Don't
I
let
think,
that man
I
touch
think
you.
that
It's
is
not
one of the
okay.
major issues. That is one of the major issues that parents need to be educated
Exactly. And they're so
educated on. Parents
negligent to
don't. There
the
are some
point.
parents who don't have time to listen to their kids. Let's say a child is maybe used to lying, and the child tells you something about somebody who has done something to her, which relates to sexual offense, and you don't have time to sit down and listen to your child. I mean, that is really bad, and I think parents need to be educated on that. And let's
Exactly.
say
So
a child who is not
I
used to
think,
telling the truth, because there are some communities when the child, their kids, because of the way they are raised, sometimes they have these tendencies maybe to steal things, and let's say they are known for bad character, and
yeah.
somebody does something like that to them, And so if they go out and report such a thing, nobody will believe them. And I think
And
parents
that's the
know
trend,
that
and
they
that's what
have
they
to
do. That's what
believe
the adults
their
do.
children, not
When
to
the
shout
child
at them, oh,
talks
come on,
about
yeah,
it,
you
they'll
expect
say,
that man
no,
to
no.
touch you. Like that
Exactly,
is
exactly.
that is terrible, and parents don't do that. I mean,
So
parents should be
neglect. I think
educated.
the law
Neglect.
needs to create, there should be an ambit for neglect. I would be so happy to see
That should have
parents,
been added to this
being
particular
fined
law.
for
I think they
neglect.
should. They should.
Exactly.
That is something we
That's
should.
something.
That should be
Neglect. Exactly.
recommended. It should be
Yeah,
recommended.
yeah.
When
That's a
when a parent
recommendation.
neglects, or maybe they should actually take that into consideration in court. When a parent neglects their child to the point that they are being abused, I mean, they too should be held responsible for
There
such.
should be something for them.
Yes, there should be
Exactly.
something
Even
for
a
them. I
fine.
think
You
so.
know how the law makes provision for when someone wants to compromise cases, you can get fined. I think there should be a provision for that, like where it can be proven that you were negligent as a parent, where you neglected this child as a parent. This could have been avoided had you done your homework as a parent. You know what? You get to pay a fine too. Where there's an ambit. I'm telling you, Charlie. I mean, very serious. When you tell parents, in some of these cases, these are things that could be avoided if only the parents are not being so negligent. So when parents realize that when this case goes to court and it is proven that, things could have probably turned out differently had you done your homework as a parent. So you know what? You're going to pay a fine of 5 million. You're going to pay a fine of 2 million.
Well,
When they
I
have
think
that in their head,
that is one part. But if you look, if you add to that, if you make that a case, if you make an addendum to that, you add to you add a case of negligence of parents, I think they'll not go to court to report these cases, because if they don't have that money, and it's going to be proven that they were negligent, that might actually deter them from reporting sexual cases. And I think the only place where I can say parent is being negligent is when the parent does not listen to the child was being molested, maybe on several occasions. The parent does not listen to the child, thereby taking into consideration until things escalated. I think that is where they should be held responsible for negligence. But if you make that a law, I mean, the law can take into consideration all of those factors, but if you make that a law, I think it will deter parents from actually reporting sexual cases, sexual offenses. So I don't think it's necessary at this time, because if you do so, considering the many compromises around less reporting of cases, how things are going, I don't think it will be necessary as it is now. But in the future, it could make a very good recommendation. And I think we should be wrapping this up now. We definitely should be wrapping this up now.
We want the law to be so futuristic that it takes into consideration the trends, because crimes come with trends, and these trends change from time to time.
Yes,
but before I think I would definitely recommend you to Parliament. When they will want to do another amendment, I'll say, you know what, I think Charley is a great person you want on that team. But
I really recommend you. I think definitely you have great ideas, and you've just shown the public. Anyway, there's one more thing I'd like for us to talk about before we go, and that is this amendment of Section 35, which added aggravating factors. We know when you look at the act, you see other aggravating factors. I think this is a new law. I think it's an amendment added to the aggravating factors. I see here it's added when the victim gets pregnant, and transmission of sexual diseases, because in these cases of rape, diseases are being transmitted sometimes, and I think it's a very good provision that the law has made, and it will go a long way. We must commend the lawmakers for this addendum to the law.
Definitely, because before it wasn't, no one thought about that, no one paid attention to that. So it's definitely worth appreciating the lawmakers for. And it's very unfortunate when you are sexually when you're raped and someone passes on an STI. So here you are.
That will
Rape.
psychologically distress you for the rest of your
Exactly.
life.
And
Yes.
then or you get impregnated and you have a baby, and you start thinking, would you be able to love this baby? Would you be able to, whenever you
I
think
think I think
about it? So here is
I think
another
that
human being.
that
Yeah,
is
go
one,
ahead.
that is one of the reasons why people want to legalize abortion, but that is a topic for later. We won't go into that, because if you impregnate a person and they have to abort that baby, they might not be able to even look at it or deal with the fact that they've been
Yeah,
impregnated by an act of rape.
honestly.
And
Yeah.
I think the lawmakers or the lawyers who push this amendment, I think they should actually go for legalization of abortion. I don't know, but they might consider looking into it. So
Yeah, that's a very good
on a whole,
recommendation,
yes.
Charley.
On a
Yeah.
whole, I would like
Yeah.
to commend them for this addendum to the laws. The sexual offences laws in Sierra Leone is a
Yeah.
very good one, and it makes
It's a very
going to
laudable
go.
venture. Yeah.
Yes, it's going to go a long way, and especially in society, in this kind of society. And I think we should start wrapping this up. Last words.
Lastly, yeah, I think lastly, I would like to give another recommendation. I know there is a PR office in Parliament. I think when laws like this are enacted, it is definitely the responsibility of lawmakers to ensure that it's publicized, to ensure
Mhm.
that the grassroots men and women understand that, first of all, there's a law like this, and second of all, these and these and these are what it entails. Because again, a lot of people do not report these cases because they're not even aware that there are laws, that are meant to protect them, and there are laws that are meant to ensure that they get access to justice. So I think it is
Yes.
our responsibility, even as law students, to hold discussions like this, and to ensure that when we have discussions like this, we're able to broadcast it so that people can learn, not just legal students, it's not just a conversation for lawyers or law students or judges, but it's a responsibility to ensure that community people understand this, community people take charge of this. So I think that would be my final word. It's definitely
And
something we
I
should
just want to
consider.
say to viewers that do not ever feel ashamed to stand up for what is right and what you want somebody to do to your person, because you have a right to it. And do
Of
not
course,
allow anybody to touch you anyhow. You have a platform. There's a law which
of
protects
course.
the entire part of body, your entire body. So whenever
Mhm.
something is done to you sexually which you don't like, feel free to talk about it, and there are people who are going to listen to you. The law is there to fight for you, so don't ever be ashamed to come up and say how you feel or
To
what's
the
been
police
done to
station, to
you.
the legal aid board.
They're all
These
here to
are
help you.
we're
Yes.
yeah, all here to help you. I think it's been a
And we
very
just
interesting conversation,
That
Charlie.
conversation. And I have to thank you as well for
Oh, I have to thank you
helping,
too.
or for contributing a lot. You've said a lot in a lot in this discussion today, and thank you. I would like to do this with you some other time. And
Well,
I guess we have
definitely.
to say goodbye to viewers now. Thanks, viewers, for viewing. We appreciate you. We love you. Keep watching
We'll give it
Law
yeah.
Society discussions, and because there are many
I
more
think we
coming
have
your
to
way.
say thank you also to the Law Society. I think it's a
Society.
laudable
Oh, they
venture.
deserve a
It's
huge
yeah.
applause for
So
this.
kudos to the team, Lucian
Mr.
and
President
Wuni.
and Sammy.
Kudos to
Oh,
the team. You
Sammy
guys are
too.
doing a great job, and of course, Sammy Nixon.
Thanks
Thank
to
you
you
guys.
guys.
It's
We
been great.
thank you. Okay.
Yeah.
Take care.